Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good morning. Maybe good evening. I know. Oh, it's just 11. Okay, so that's a good evening. How are you all doing this evening? Hello, thanks for joining me. Okay, let me get my camera angle right because you know how I do. Oh, good evening, good evening, good evening. I'm going to keep this brief. I hope. You know, I love talking about these boundaries, right? These undefined boundaries in relationships. Hello, Jesus Alvarez. Thanks for joining. You know, I like talking about these undefined lines in relationships. When I say undefined line, hello, Will D. Hello, thanks for joining. You know, I talk about these undefined lines in relationships. Meaning these undefined lines are boundaries that we establish or we don't establish, that we establish and people trample or don't respect these particular boundaries. And we end up feeling some kind of way about it. And usually when I talk about these, it's from personal experience. Tonight is no different. Try to be brief about this because I know it's late and people have church tomorrow, people have things to do tomorrow, family time, so try to be brief and only take a little bit of your time. But I think it's important that I talk about this because I didn't set a boundary and now I was in an awkward position in a conversation with a friend, close friend today. So long story short, I have a friend, well, I'll say associate, I've been knowing for a while through another friend. Great person, great personality. We communicate on the phone every now and then. We have conversations, good conversations. Should have put my phone on mute, but I didn't. But we're gonna keep it rolling. Anyway, so one night, this was probably happened like maybe 2 months ago, the first time. This friend who I respect and hold in high regards, okay, very high regards. I respect this person for who he is and what he does for a living. Very high regards. And so he texted me late one night. It was like in the 12 o'clock hour, right? And he texted me. He was like, tell me something good. And I thought, God is good. I mean, but I knew what he was saying when he said that. And I thought to myself, okay, you did not tell him that you don't have those kind of conversations. When I say hotline, we're talking about hotline, right? I ain't your sex toss partner at 12 a.m. in the morning, okay? Problem was, I never established that with that person. I didn't think I needed to, but I did. The first time he did it, I just blew it off. I should have established a boundary right there because he did it again. Second time, I blew it off. That texting me late in the night, 12, 1 o'clock. I mean, I'm not just texting me saying, I'm thinking about you, tell me something good. I'm like, okay, what are your thoughts? First of all, are you thinking, oh, she's a nice person. You know what? We have really great conversation. You know what? She has a great smile. You know what? She's a very smart girl. I'm almost certain those were not the thoughts that he was having. Could have been, but probably wasn't. Right? So for me to not establish a boundary right there, to him that's saying, well, she didn't tell me not to do it. She didn't say that it was okay. She didn't answer me the way I thought she would or the way I wanted her to. So I'll just keep doing it again. This particular guy, this is probably the fourth time today. Well, last night, and it was this morning actually. And I was like, okay, why haven't I established a boundary here and a defined line here between us in this friendship or association that we have with one another? Because apparently he doesn't understand that's not something that I do. If he would have caught me about 7 years ago, I would have been right on top of that. Put my check in the mail. But that's not who I am today. So you can't call or text me in the middle of the night asking me for some favorable conversation to help you relax. It's not what I do. So I had to establish today and say, look, friend, associate, I enjoy our conversations. But what I don't enjoy is you calling me in the middle of the night or texting me in the middle of the night asking me for a conversation that I'm not comfortable having with you. Okay? Matter of fact, I'm not comfortable having. Years ago, I would have been right on top of it. I would have expected a check in the mail. But since I'm not that person today, the fact that I held this person in such high regards, I understand people have moments when they are feeling a certain type of way and they want to communicate with people or maybe communicate those feelings to someone. But I never expected that person to try that with me. And maybe I should have established that from the beginning, but our conversations never went that direction, so I didn't think I needed to. Well, I did. And the fact that I blew it off several times, means that he was going to continue to cross that boundary and continue to cross it until I say, look, until I either satisfied what he was looking for, or either I say what I've done today. I appreciate the conversation, but that's not a conversation that you and I will ever have, or I don't ever plan to have a conversation like that with you. I mean, and the reason why I felt like we did not need to establish that boundary is because of who he is as a person, because of what he does as a person. And our conversations, like I said, never went that direction. I don't know what I said that would have made him think that was okay, or maybe he lives a alternate lifestyle outside of his primary job. Excuse me, I had chocolate almond ice cream earlier. Shh, don't tell anybody. But maybe he has an alternate lifestyle outside of his primary job that is secretive, or maybe no one knows about, or that he just expresses at a later time in the evening. I'm not sure, but what I am sure of, I am not the one. What does he do for a living? Let's just say he's, let me see, I'm trying to find a way to explain it without, he's not a pastor, but he works in that capacity, if that's okay. He's not particularly a pastor. He's a preacher, though. Okay, so I think that's a better term for him. He is a preacher. He's a man of faith. He's very smart, very wise in that area. But like I said, I would have never expected him to call me in the middle of the night asking for sexual conversation. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what did I say to him that would make him think that I would even do that? Because this is just not what I would do. Like, we are friends. We're friends. I'll say we're friends because we have great conversation. That's about the extent of it. We have great conversation. I've connected him to other people. He's connected me to other people. But for him to just come out the blue, and he didn't say, let's have this type of conversation. He said, I've been thinking about you all day. And one of the comments was yum, yum. And I'm thinking, yum, yum. What the H-E hockey sticks does that mean? I understood what it meant, but I was very uncomfortable. But at that moment, I should have established the boundary that says, look, this is a conversation that you and I cannot have. This is a conversation that you and I would never have. And I'm not comfortable with you asking me for that type of conversation. Problem is, I did not do that. I did not do that. And so therefore, he continued to ask me for that type of conversation. And last night was like the straw that broke the camel's back, or the needle hiding in the haystack, or whatever it is. I just was like, look, I can tell that you are in a moment at this particular time. I'm not going to be the one to satisfy you in that moment through conversation. I'm not going to have that type of conversation with you. It's just not going to happen. And I don't even appreciate him asking me for that type of conversation because it's just not something that I would do. Like I said, I've done it in the past many years ago, but I left that lifestyle alone. Like, it wasn't prosperous. Well, at a point it was, but at this point in my life, I do not need that in my life. So, it's important to establish boundaries, even when you think there's a understood boundary. Like, I thought there was an understood boundary there. This is a conversation that we shouldn't have or that we wouldn't have. I was mistaken. I took for granted that just from our conversations that it wouldn't go that direction. And I never clearly established a boundary or put that line, drew that line in the sand that says, this is not a conversation that you and I can have or ever will have, or this is not an avenue that you and I will ever drive down. So because I didn't do that, that boundary was crossed. You remember when I talked about how when somebody crosses into your lane, if you're driving, that caution is there, even though there's no external damage or internal damage, there is a caution up towards that person. That's what has happened. Now, I still honor him as a friend, but there's a caution light. I'm cautious. My focus is, when we have conversation, there's something going on in the back. I'm remembering the fact that you're asking me for sexual conversation in the middle of the night. The fact that I did not establish that the first 3 times, establish that boundary. I mean, the first 3 times he asked for that means that every time I didn't establish that boundary, there was going to be another point where he was going to cross it again. Because, like I said, I didn't say it wasn't okay. I didn't say it was okay. So if you don't make that defined line, if you don't clearly define what the line is, people will cross it. And I'm certain now that I won't have that issue again because I have clearly defined the fact that that's not a conversation that we will have. But I should have done it 4 conversations ago. The first time he asked me for that, I should have said, excuse me, but I ain't talking to you like that. Or, I ain't your girl 6. So it's important to establish, very important, even when you think there's an unverbalized understanding that is a boundary, you need to establish the boundary anyway. Just put it out there. If they say, oh, I know, then great. At least you know that they know, because I didn't know that he didn't know. So, like I said, that's just my little spiel for tonight. This really happened to me. So, make sure you define lines, even with your friendships. If you have a male-female relationship, or even female-female, male-male, there's got to be some lines established, because you don't know what the other person is thinking about you. And then, like I said, when someone calls you in booty call hours, saying that I'm thinking about you, then, my question is, why? And what you thinking about? Those questions arise, and I should have established a boundary then, because I recognized at that point there was a boundary that was crossed, but I did not define it or redefine it. So make sure that you let people know what your boundaries are. Even if you think that they are understood, you don't verbalize them, but you assume that they're understood, make sure you establish the lines anyway, the boundaries anyway, because there's always room for error, miscommunication, misunderstanding. Like I said, I'm wondering, what did I say? What did I do that would make that person think that I would be his girl 6? So have a great Resurrection Day or Passover feast, whatever you do. Sunday. Have a great rest of your weekend. Here's some weird noises outside. So have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Much love, much peace to you. Women, you're beautiful, you're smart, you're intelligent, you're creative, you're loved, you are needed. You're the seed carriers in there. And guess what? We need you. Men, you're handsome, you're smart, you're intelligent, you're strong, you're powerful, you are protective, you're protecting, you are creative, and guess what? You are needed as well. You know why? Because your seed is extremely important. You are the seed planters in the earth. And guess what? Yep, we need you. So without you, seed can't grow. Women, without you, there's no seed. Women, without you, the seed can't grow. So guess what? We need each other. I need you. You need me. So thanks for watching. I love you. Have a great rest of your weekend and upcoming week. Just be blessed. Much love.